evening, everyone. This is Badrinath Singh, and I'm here for US Impact. US Impact is US Indo-American Political Action Committee of Texas. I'm here to interview one of the Frisco City Council candidates for Place 5, Rob Cox. Rob Cox is not a stranger to Frisco. He is one of the most popular guys out over there because of his amount of work which he's done for the community. He's been part of several committees, he's been part of several councils and so on. Rob, thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely.
It would be nice if you could talk a little bit about yourself because your resume is pretty big. And in fact, when I started reading it, it's like unending. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So I'm Rob Cox. I've been in Frisco for over 22 years. I'm married to Kelly Cox, who is a local Frisco ISD dyslexia teacher. And I have to give a little plug out. She's Teacher of the Year at Corbell Elementary this year. And we have a history of service in Frisco. We met serving at church. She was working the coffee bar. I was running the usher team. And we really believe that service is the way to give back to your community. And so over the last 5 years, I was nominated and appointed by City Council to be the Planning and Zoning Commissioner. And so we helped build a lot of great neighborhoods here in Frisco. Helped stop bad neighborhoods, bad apartments, and those types of things. But I also, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was elected chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And 3 times now, my fellow Planning and Zoning Commissioners have elected me chair. Also have served in Frisco ISD on the Long Range Planning Committee, served on the District of Innovation Committee and the Facilities and Evaluation Committee. And so we have a history of serving and we want to continue to do so. And I look forward to being able to share a little bit about my message with you here today.
Sure. So Rob, what would be your top 5 priorities for you when it comes to Frisco once you get selected as a city council member?
Well, the first thing, we got to keep public safety our top priority in this city. We are the sixth safest city in the country, but that can't change. As we have growth, we have new challenges, and we got to make sure that we're giving our public safety officials the talent, tools, and training to keep not only Frisco safe, but also to keep them safe. So that's the first priority. Second priority is to attract a Fortune 100 type company here to Frisco and create high-paying jobs. Doing that, I have a history of Global 1000 work, and I've worked with Ford Motor and Cisco and Oracle and other large companies. So I'll be able to help land one of those companies.
Okay.
That will have an impact on traffic, and traffic is another issue we have. And so by landing commercial on the north side of town and creating these employment centers, we'll be able to create a reverse commute. We'll be able to slow the pass-through traffic from Salina and Aubrey and all the other cities north of us down a little bit, have them stop at the north side of town and work. And we also will have more jobs available for Frisco residents to commute locally. We're one of the top top virtual workforce cities, and we need to also be one of the top cities where people work locally and still increase our level of income. I guess the final priority, there was about 4 there, but the final priority is really to help move Graham Park forward in the next couple years. We have a new strategy. I support that strategy to change how we do the lake. And so I think we have some real opportunity to move that project forward so that we can start using it on a daily basis here in Frisco.
So it just definitely shows that experience matters, right? When you're talking about landing some of these large companies north of Frisco or northern side of Frisco and trying to get a reverse commute, you are probably one of the first ones to talk about it, at least amongst all the candidates we've spoken to.
Well, so I didn't just start doing this stuff when the campaign started. So some people say, oh, you got late into the campaign late. And I said, no, I think everybody else did. I've been doing it for 5 years.
True.
And I've been doing it as a citizen as well. So, for example, I've been talking to high-tech companies on my own and bringing them in to talk to UNT and to talk to EDC and figure out there's partnerships to do some advanced technology things like 5G application incubators. So I brought incubators. They're in the grant process right now so that they can fund UNT and help build these incubators along Panther Creek leading up to UNT. I did that as a citizen because I see the vision I have for Frisco. And it is to bring in high-tech jobs. So when your kids graduate from high school and college, they can come back to Frisco and make a nice income and nice living and have a high quality of life like we're giving our kids today.
I've heard from various quarters that there's a desire for affordable living. So can you explain a little bit as to what is the plan on those lines? I know that you're part of P&Z.
Yeah.
So you should have some answers on that.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, most of the houses that we built in Frisco where traditional, what I call single family, 8.5 or 8,500 square foot lots, you know, and you see that still being built. You still see nice big lots and big houses being built. But about 3 years ago, we made some adjustments. We started allowing a little bit more patio homes, a little bit more townhomes, because the average price of a new build was working its way up into the mid $500,000 range. And so that wasn't the right range for everybody in Frisco. And I think we have some product offerings coming on the market that continue to solve for that. But I don't think that Frisco needs to change its building standards or create super micro tiny houses or subsidize developers to build what other people would call affordable housing. Within 10 miles of Frisco, you can buy houses brand new houses in the $240,000 range.
Okay.
And so what Frisco is now is becoming a destination work city. And so you can come here and the opportunities are great. But it doesn't necessarily mean that every housing product has to fit in Frisco, because Frisco used to be a commuter city.
Sure.
So we were commuting to the high salary areas where I couldn't afford to live in Highland Park, but there's jobs down there, or I couldn't afford to live around the Galleria or something like that. But what we want to do is make it attractive for people to come here and work, and their incomes will go up, and then there are options where we have what we call the missing middle, some other housing options that are available for folks.
So if I may ask, what would be the low range of the houses right now?
Well, the market, it dictates that, right?
Okay, right.
What we're seeing is an entry-level home right now for a brand new home is $340,000.
Okay.
But new housing right now, a townhome is going for $330,000, $340,000. And so that's a $2,200, $2,300 a month house payment.
So for the bang for the buck, it's better for people who are looking at lower than that range to probably look around Frisco, somewhere closer.
Absolutely. They may not get a new home.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's okay not to have a brand new home, because that's just a target market.
Sure.
So you can get under $300,000 still in Frisco. It's more competitive. You get it in Little Elm.
Okay.
So there are options that are really close to get in that $200,000 to $300,000 range.
Sure.
But the market really is dictating that. It may come back down to those that are affordable.
So does that mean that the senior citizens who may not be able to afford that high expensive houses will probably have to look at the outskirts of Frisco or move further up north?
Well, there are a lot of options there, right? So we have the Del Webb community that a lot of seniors have moved into. I actually play golf out at the Tribute, and there's a lot of seniors that live out there. But there are different priced options for different needs, right? Okay. And so there's more alternative senior housing coming in where you can live in more of a planned community, not necessarily have to own your house. But there are options all around us. So you can be within your grandkids in 10 miles and be able to afford to live here and get access to these hospitals and to the services and the capabilities that we have. So those are important things. Nice.
So if I try to see the top three issues which Frisco may be facing today, what would be your top three picks?
Well, I'm really concerned about the tax burden that we have on our homeowners.
Okay.
As our commercial has grown, as our commercial has grown, we need to really focus on bringing down the burden of the homeowner.
Okay.
Because we built Frisco on the backs of our homeowners. And so it's really important to lower that burden as we get more commercial valuation. And as well as the employment centers being important, the commercial valuations are really important so that we can bring down that tax burden. And we have to be really disciplined not to take extra funds and use it for other things, and really have good discipline in our tax approach. So that's one of the top things that we need to do. The other things we talked about.
So what are the other two? Top three?
Well, we talked about public safety, and we talked about some traffic things, the strategic traffic things, which is to create that reverse commute. There are tactical traffic things that we can do. We need to finish the east-west corridors and John Hickman, Rock Hill Parkway, and some of those types of roads. And make sure that people can go east-west and get to the D&T or easily get to Preston and Legacy in 423. But what we can't do is stem the flow of traffic from the north. So we have to be really smart in using technologies. I'm a big in favor of using advanced AI technologies to bring in robotics and delivery services through drones. That'll be the first hit. If Amazon or FedEx can use drones in Frisco and eliminate 7 to 10% of our our commercial traffic, that has an impact on traffic in the short run, 3 to 5 years, before we get into the real big things that we can talk about.
That is an interesting option you're talking about.
Yes.
So when you talk about reducing the tax burden, what are the options you're giving us?
Well, we're handcuffed right now by the state 2B law, so we can only increase 3.5% without going to the taxpayers. And most of us don't want to go to the taxpayers. We don't want to increase the tax rate. And so some people call it an effective tax rate, but the reality is you have levers. And so as we start getting more and more commercial valuation, maybe we increase that homestead exemption.
Okay.
We're already given $80,000 homestead exemption to disabled folks, to our senior citizens. And so I hope those numbers continue to go up so that we can reduce that burden and put a little bit more burden on the commercial properties, and that's one way to do it.
Are you saying that you're going to be balancing more between the effective taxes and effective tax rates and homeowners?
I think essentially the 2B rulings do that because you're capped on what you're allowed to increase. So how you communicate that is really important. Some people talk about effective tax rate. The reality is we have to have levers, and we'll move those levers around. Hopefully, move that lever down so it impacts the homeowner a little bit less. And I'd like to see total spend from a city perspective go down.
Sure.
But let's be honest about it. The city tax bill is only 20% of your overall property tax bill.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that we do our part, but we still have to provide the services, the public safety, the roads, the water, and all the other things that we have to provide. So it's a balancing act, and we got to make sure we're disciplined, continue to be disciplined. I think Frisco's done a great job in that, but we have to continue that process.
Okay, so when it comes to the kind of companies coming into Frisco, we talk about the sports related companies or organizations coming in. We have got technology and innovation related, like the ones you're talking about, possibility of Uber Elevate and so on, so many things coming in. So besides these two, is there any other market which Frisco is actively looking towards?
Well, I think from a business perspective, you need technology companies, you need research companies, biomedical research, you need engineering, you need high skilled. Frisco has a wonderful, highly skilled workforce. That's why people are moving here, and that's why companies are moving to the area. And so we have to continue having those skills in our workforce to drive the reason that companies want to come here. But if we're talking about sports city and we're talking about technology and jobs and so forth, we also got to talk about the arts a little bit. I think Frisco has an opportunity to put a performing arts center in place that I support doing it, as long as the operating and O&M part of it, the maintenance part of it, we can get a handle on that so it doesn't impact the rest of the services that we offer here in Frisco. But I think we have some really good options to make sure that we partner with the school district, we partner with private companies to also add Arts City to our title here in Frisco. And there are real challenges from a cost management perspective, because sports typically have a revenue stream.
Right.
A lot of the performing arts centers have different types of revenue streams. They might have endowments.
Sure.
They might have partnerships. And so we have to explore all those things to make sure anything that we do has long-term sustainability, because the worst thing we could do for the arts community is do this and then fail. So we got to make sure that we make it successful when we do it and up front.
Tell us a little bit about the continuity from EDC to City Council.
Well, you mean planning and zoning to City Council?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm a solutions provider. In other words, if somebody has a problem in Frisco, they would call Rob. HOA president, pick up the phone. Hey, I have a question. They call me. And I'm able to solve those problems. We have major issues that came up during my 5 years in planning and zoning. One of them was the substation off Legacy that they wanted to put in front of Allen Elementary. And a lot of citizens were unhappy about that. So as a P&Z member, I got involved because it came to us. We didn't know it was coming. And there was a lot of questions and concern. We broke it down. We figured out what was going on. And we figured out there's some alternative sites that would be better, not only for the neighborhoods, but for the city of Frisco. And so I was able to point people in the right direction to get information. I was able to work with the city staff to identify alternative locations. And then our city staff took great measure to solve that problem. But it's not just the substations, it's neighborhoods. You know, Lawler Park in Edgewood had some challenges. A developer had some rights, and the Lawler Park had some expectations, and they weren't being met. And so I was able to get involved and provide some guidance, and we were able to come with
as a P&Z
person.
Okay.
And so I was able to provide some guidance to both Lawler Park HOA,
Sure.
but also the developer, and we created a win-win scenario. So there's no longer a gap between the neighborhoods. They're contiguous, and we solve problems. So that's what I do. So as coming to planning and zoning, not only can I identify what the problems are,
Okay.
I know where to go to get things done.
Okay.
I've been solving problems on behalf of citizens for 5 years. It's not just a campaign promise for me. It's my way of doing things. It's my way of getting involved and taking concerns of our citizens and making them happen.
As a community member, I do see a lot of new things and some special things happening at Brinkman Ranch. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Brinkman Ranch is one of those unique things in Frisco. We have development agreements between the city and property owners, and Brinkman being one of those property owners that have been around since 2002. And so some of the entitlements that they have for apartments,
Sure.
many people aren't happy with, myself included, but they're contractual obligations between the city and Brinkman. And people don't understand that Mr. Brinkman gave right-of-ways for Preston Road and El Dorado and Main Street for those rights. And he's been a very good citizen here and partner here in Frisco for a very long time. Great developments. Edgewood was one of his developments, and he sold the land for that. And so we have to understand that there's some things that we have to try to negotiate when we don't have a lot of leverage.
Okay.
And we've done a good job. The amount of garden-style apartments in Frisco has come down dramatically because of the negotiating that our city manager has done. And we'll continue to do that while I'm on city council. It's important to try to get those entitlements down without costing the city millions in either lawsuits or other obligations that we have.
Sure. Sure. Any specific areas you would like to touch upon which we've not discussed so far, which you want our viewers to know about?
Absolutely. Let's talk about density. A lot of people think that apartments in Frisco are causing our traffic problems. And, a lot of the apartments that people think are causing traffic problems are actually on 423, 380, and on Custer Road in McKinney, Little Elm, and other areas north of us. And so all those people come south through Frisco, and they come through pass-through traffic.
Okay.
Right? And it's important. Apartments have to have a reason to be newly entitled. If you get zoning for apartments, just because we think you're going to be bringing jobs. So no jobs, no apartments for new entitlements. That's one of the things I'm passionate about. In the 5 years I've been here, there's only one time that we've given rights to apartments that didn't have jobs associated, and it's right over here behind us in Frisco Square, because we're trying to activate Frisco Square to protect this asset that we have. But everything else has apartments tied to jobs and so forth. So a lot of the apartments that you see that are already built, those were done before I got on planning and zoning. What people don't really understand is many times we stop apartments before they ever apply.
Okay.
Emerson Apartments over here off Main Street behind the main event, they asked for a third building in a work session. And we told them there's really no reason for it because you're not driving jobs, you're not driving entertainment. And so at least 9 times in my time as Planning and Zoning Commissioner, we've stopped either a bad development or apartment requests that never even came to the city.
So what about the 121 in Ohio? Plenty of apartments over there.
Yeah, that was done way before for us. But the interesting thing is you get to the end of those apartments, there's some empty land right there next to the neighborhood. They wanted to put apartments in there. We stopped them.
Okay.
Said, hey, if you want to put patio homes or townhomes there to transition from the neighborhood to apartments, we can talk about that, but this is not the right place for apartments. Even though that was zoned industrial, we knew eventually they would get to the right mix. That was another one of those things that we did in the work session that nobody hears about because it worked, right? And so those are the types of things that, as a planning and zoning commissioner, I've been working on behalf of the Frisco citizens for 5 years, and I really want to do it for 3 more years at least.
So it looks like you're a long-term, long-vision planner, and keeping that in mind, I wanted to ask one more question.
Sure.
Nobody anticipated a virus like coronavirus hitting us.
That's correct.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it shows us how susceptible we are as a world to a lot of different things. One is technology. One is the things that we hold dear to us, which is our families and our community. What I'm seeing is our community rising together, helping each other, helping our senior citizens get access to medical supplies and food and so forth so they don't have to expose themselves. And so I think these things will bring out the best in Frisco. And it's what I suspect will happen. I'm already seeing it. And I think we have to be really smart in this campaign on how we talk to our residents, make sure we give them space, take on the 6-foot spatial designation, and really be compassionate towards each other through this process. We're going to get through it. We're resilient in this country, we're resilient in the city, and we're really well poised to deal with this. We have world-class medical facilities all around us, and we have a very educated, vibrant community that will hopefully heed the warnings, be smart, and just take some time to be with family while we're working through some of these things.
Sure. Any last comments on the elections and what you're fighting for, and why should people actually come out and vote for you?
Yeah, I know it's going to be tough to get people to come out, I think, but I think there's a couple reasons why they should vote for me. One is I get things done, and I have a history of it. If you look at the results, Frisco is the #1 city in the country to live, and part of that is because of the work my planning and zoning commissioners and I have done over the last 5 years. But it's a lot of vision things that a lot of people had prior to me ever getting involved in the city. But I have a vision. I have a vision for Frisco that in 5 years, UNT is a world-class campus. And people are wanting to have their kids go there, and kids want to go there. And when they graduate, they will have technology companies lined up down Panther Creek where they can go work and be in advanced technologies, AI and 5G application development and biomedical research. I have a vision that we have jobs in the north side of town where you can increase the income here in Frisco from $130,000 per household up. And so I also have a vision that your children and grandchildren have the same opportunities that my wonderful family has had for 23 years here in Frisco. And that is why I'm running now, is to provide that vision for your grandchildren and your children.
Well, thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.